There's a jump that no human being had ever landed in competition. A quadruple axel, 4.5 rotations in the air, starting from a forward edge in less than a second. Physicists said the margin for error was essentially zero. Coaches called it career-threatening to even attempt. Most skaters wouldn't go near it. One kid decided to make it his signature move. And then, on the biggest night of his life, he couldn't do it at all. What do you do when the thing that made you legendary becomes the thing that betrays you in front of the entire world? Ilia Malinin was never supposed to be ordinary. Born to 2 Olympic skaters, his mother, Tatiana Malina, and father, Roman Skornyakov, both competed at the Games, the ice wasn't a hobby for him. It was his first language. He was on skates before most kids learned to ride a bike. And from the moment he started competing seriously, it became obvious that something was different about him. Not just technically, something in the way he moved, like the laws of gravity were a suggestion rather than a rule. By 2022, at just 17 years old, he did what no one had ever done. He landed the quadruple axel in competition, not in practice, not in a controlled environment with foam pits and safety harnesses, in a live competition, with judges watching, with a score on the line. The figure skating world went silent for a moment, and then erupted. They called him the Quad God, and for once, a nickname actually fit. What followed was one of the most dominant stretches in modern figure skating history. He won, constantly, consistently, in competition after competition. From late 2023 through the entire 2025 season, Ilia Malinin stood on top of the podium so often it started to seem inevitable. 2 world titles, a gold at 4 continents, a reputation so bulletproof that by the time the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milan were announced, the question wasn't whether he'd win gold, it was whether he'd break a world record doing it. That's an almost impossible position to be in, when expectation stops feeling like motivation and starts feeling like a wall closing in around you. He admitted it himself. He described heading into those games feeling like there were so many eyes, so much attention on him, a pressure unlike anything he'd experienced before. And he'd experienced a lot. But the Olympics aren't just a competition, they're a machine. They manufacture narratives, and the narrative the machine had chosen for Ilia Malinin was gold or disaster. There was no space in between. February 13th, 2026, Milan. The men's free skate. Malinin stepped onto the ice in first place after the short program. The gold medal was his to lose. He knew it, the crowd knew it. The entire American broadcast structure had essentially already written the victory headline. And then the music started. His first jump landed clean. Then came the quad axel, his jump, the move that had defined him, the thing he'd done hundreds of times. He approached the takeoff, launched, and it became a single, 1 rotation instead of 4.5. And from there, the wheels came off completely. He fell twice, botched a quad loop, accumulated 72 point deductions in a performance that commentators Johnny Weir and Tara Lipinski watched with visible disbelief. When the music stopped, Ilia Malinin covered his face, bent over his knees, shook his head. He was holding back tears and not doing it very well. He finished 8th. Kazakhstan's Mikhail Shaidorov took the gold, becoming his country's first ever figure skating Olympic champion. It was a stunning, beautiful story, and Ilia Malinin was not in it. Afterward, he told NBC, "I felt so ready getting on that ice. Maybe I was too confident it was going to go well." Then he paused and said what athletes almost never say out loud, "I think it was definitely mental." Let's stop there, because that admission, "I think it was definitely mental," is one of the most honest things an elite athlete has ever said publicly about their own performance. No excuses on the ice conditions, no blaming the judges, just a 21-year-old saying, "I was in my own head and I couldn't get out." The response from the internet was brutal, vile in some cases, and Malinin didn't pretend it wasn't happening. 3 days after the competition, Malinin posted on Instagram. The caption read, "On the world's biggest stage, those who appear the strongest may still be fighting invisible battles on the inside. Even your happiest memories can end up tainted by the noise. Vile online hatred attacks the mind, and fear lures it into the darkness, no matter how hard you try to stay sane through the endless, insurmountable pressure. It all builds up as these moments flash before your eyes, resulting in an inevitable crash." This is that version of the story. He paired it with a video, clips of his victories, his joy, his backflips, cut suddenly with glitch sounds and black and white footage of a young man clearly struggling. And then a date, February 21st, 2026. Something was coming. 8 days after the worst performance of his career, Ilia Malinin walked back onto Olympic ice. The exhibition gala, a moment most athletes use to have fun, wave to the crowd, skate something light. He wore a dark sweatshirt, distressed jeans, no competition costume. The music that played wasn't triumphant, it was Fear by NF, and what he performed wasn't choreography, it was a confession. He moved across the ice swatting at invisible demons, his face carrying every ounce of what the past week had cost him. And then, near the end, the backflip, illegal in competition from 1977 all the way until 2024, it had become his signature exclamation point. He landed it, the crowd exploded, and Ilia Malinin stood there with tears running down his face. He'd gone back out there, he said, to prove them all wrong. He did. But the story wasn't finished because Ilia Malinin is nothing if not relentless. Weeks later, at the 2026 World Figure Skating Championships in Prague, he took the ice again, and this time, no mental wall, no machine breathing down his neck, no Olympic pressure monster sitting on his chest. He was himself again. He scored 329.40 points and won gold, his third consecutive world title, 3 in a row. The quad god hadn't fallen, he'd been temporarily buried. There's a difference. What Ilia Malinin's story teaches us isn't about figure skating. It's not even really about sport. It's about what happens when a human being is turned into a symbol before they become a person. He was 21 years old. He'd never been to an Olympic Games before, and the entire weight of American figure skating, 4 years of anticipation, a media machine, a ravenous internet, was stacked on top of one young man who just wanted to land his jumps. He didn't, and then he came back anyway. There's a detail most people missed in the aftermath. At some point during the chaos of the Olympics, a competitor fell during practice. While everyone else skated past, Ilia Malinin stopped, helped them up, checked if they were okay. The International Olympic Committee noticed. They gave him the Milano Cortina 2026 Fair Play Award for exceptional sportsmanship. He won an award for his character at the Olympics where he lost the competition. Think about what that says about who he actually is. The quad god story isn't over. It's barely begun. He's 21 years old with 3 world titles, an Olympic team gold, and a comeback arc that no screenwriter would dare invent because it would seem too convenient. But before you click away, I want to ask you something real. When you watched that breakdown in Milan, what did you feel? Because millions of people felt something, and most of them couldn't explain why a figure skating result moved them that deeply. Maybe it's because what Ilia Malinin went through isn't about skating at all. It's about every moment any of us have prepared for everything and still come up short. And the choice, after all of that, to get back up. If this story landed for you the way it did for me, share it, because these are the sports stories worth telling, not who won the medal, but who they became on the way there.